Okay, hi Tayla. So we've got this set of essays from you. Let's take a look at what you wrote. The first one is the terrible restaurant experience. Here is what you said about it. Dear sir or madam, I am writing this letter to express my dissatisfaction with the service provided at your restaurant. Last Saturday, I went with my husband to your restaurant. Okay, I go to a place or I was at. So since you went with the verb, you decided to use the verb went, it should be to. So I went with my husband to your restaurant to celebrate our 10th anniversary, and knowing that Saturdays are usually busy, I made a reservation in advance. However, when we got there, a table was not available and we had to wait 1 hour to sit and have dinner. Okay. Let's see. Fine. Moreover, I ordered a special dish and asked the waitress. Okay. Moreover, I ordered a special dish and asked that my dish be without nuts because I'm allergic. Now, what did I do here? Not only did I fix the grammar to make it accurate, but I also included an advanced grammatical structure, which is what I think you were trying to do, but it didn't just come off accurately. So this is something called subjunctive, okay? So when you say, I asked that the waiter do something, okay? I asked that the waiter, I asked that my dish be without nuts. It's this grammatical structure called subjunctive. If you can include it and do it accurately in your writing, then it's a great thing to do because it's one of those less common grammatical structures that examiners see and then they go, oh, that's nice. Wow. Okay. So let's move on. Unfortunately, when our food arrived, it was cold, super spicy, and was topped with peanuts. Okay, this super spicy is something we 100% say in spoken language with our friends, but absolutely not in a formal letter. Okay, it's better to say here it was cold, extremely spicy, and was topped with peanuts. I don't even know why you said that it was spicy. I don't understand that. I mean, you never said that you had a problem with spice, so I don't see how that's a negative. But okay, whatever. As a result, I could not eat, and we did not want to wait for who is them. I think what you should have just said is instead is we did not want to wait for another dish, so we decided to pay and leave the restaurant to have dinner somewhere else. Our special night turned, because you told us when it happened last Saturday, so it should all be past tense. Our special night turned out to be a terrible experience. I would suggest that you manage the booking schedule to ensure that people will have their table. In addition, it is necessary to train your wait staff to pay attention to details which are extremely important, such as allergies. Furthermore, I would like a full refund for my dinner as we did not eat. Okay, I hope to hear from you soon. Yours faithfully. All right, this is fine. It's good. You covered all the points. Let's see. I think that one thing I would have liked here in terms of the development of this is this last piece here. So great, you gave them some suggestions for their restaurant and how to improve, and that was a good thing to do. But I also think you should have maybe gone into a little more detail about this. So yeah, you told them to manage the booking schedule, to train their staff, and then I would like, so I don't even know if it should have been furthermore. Maybe you should have said instead, as a result of the extremely disappointing experience we had, I would like a full refund. So I think that makes more sense. Maybe that's what's missing here. It's not the furthermore that's so much the problem, but it's I mean, it's not the detail, but it's just like, you know, as a result of everything that we experienced, I think I deserve a refund. Okay, that's what I would do here. Okay, so let's move on to your this. All right, so this is the issue of getting married and having children in your 30s. Here's what you said. The question of whether getting married and having children around the age of 30 or doing the same when younger has been debated globally. Personally, I believe this is a positive development, and I will support my opinion with examples from my family and country. Okay, so this is the essay where you're asked if it is a positive or negative development that people are getting married and having children later. And then the second question is, to what extent do you support this? I always find these questions kind of strange because it's almost like they're asking you the same thing twice. But let's see how you actually develop this, okay? There is ample evidence that during the last decade, no apostrophe here, the last decades, people used to marry and have children when they were in their 20s. The main reason is twofold. Firstly, most couples did not have many perspectives on their future. I don't know what that means, many perspectives on their future. So they believe they should only study, work, and build a family. I think what you mean is they didn't have many options. They just thought that they did this and that was it. While the man worked, the women stayed home. What do you mean? One man and then multiple women? That sounds strange. So while the men worked, the women stayed home, taking care of their children. Secondly, most families did not plan to have children. They had less information to prevent pregnancy, such as contraceptives or condoms. For instance, my grandparents had 10 children, and the first one was born when my grandmother was 18 years old. Therefore, they did not have much money, and they had to get a loan to pay for the education of their children. All right. So, Tayla, I don't understand how this is relevant to the topic. I mean, we just talked about what the topic is marriage, and the trend is marriage and childbirth in your 30s, positive or negative. So talking about what used to happen in previous decades is absolutely irrelevant. We're not concerned. We know what used to happen. So focusing on this for an entire paragraph is off topic, and an examiner is going to look at this and say this is a tangential answer, and you really don't want that to happen because that is going to severely lower your task achievement score. Okay? This is not how you should have talked about this. There are many ways you could focus on this essay and answer this essay. We're going to talk about it at the end, but I have to tell you that this paragraph is completely off topic. All right, let's move on, and then we'll go more into detail. On the other hand, nowadays, with information accessible to everyone, people prefer to get married and give birth later. This is largely because, young adults prefer to enjoy their lives as much as they can before getting married. All right, so why? Tell me about that. And why do they do this? What does this mean? Why is this positive? Remember, we're talking about the positive aspects of this. Moreover, couples prefer to focus on their careers before growing their families. This brings a positive effect to individuals and society because families have more financial stability and can raise their children without needing a loan. For example, in Brazil, the average age to marry is 31 and give birth at 35 years old. This is because people decide to make these decisions after they achieve their own goals and want to plan all the steps for the next decision. Therefore, most postpone the desire to have children until they are financially stable. All right, that's lovely. But you did need to go a little more in detail here because the second part of the paragraph felt like it dealt with having children. But the first part of the paragraph, which dealt with getting married, wasn't developed at all. It didn't have any examples or support, so you needed to do that. In conclusion, although in the past people preferred to get married and give birth earlier, in recent days people prefer to plan and do it later, and I agree with the latter view because it makes the country more economically prepared than ever before. Okay, that's fine. So here's the great news. The great news is that it's a cohesive essay. It's easy to read. It flows very nicely. Those are great points because a lot of essays don't flow very easily. Yours do. However, I think the thing that is really, really, really going to severely affect the score you would get on an essay like this is the fact that it's an off-topic response. This paragraph was completely off-topic. So what happens when you have an off-topic paragraph? Well, honestly, it could put you in the range of a 4 or a 5 for task achievement. And when you factor in all the scores for both task 1 and task 2, that's going to really, really lower your score. Okay? So now what I want to do is spend a minute talking about how you could have developed this essay. Okay, so this is the essay prompt that you answered. So let's look at it together. Today, most people get married and give birth in their 30s rather than when they are younger. Is this a positive or negative development in your opinion? So what you really need to be focusing on is the positives or negatives of marriage in your 30s and childbirth in your 30s. Now, one way that I think is really a clear, easy way to do this is to spend one paragraph focusing on why it's a positive thing to get married in your 30s, and then another paragraph focusing on why it's positive to have children in your 30s. So what does all of this mean? So why is it a positive development, and why do you support this development in both paragraphs? Okay, that's one way that a lot of people choose to develop this, and I think it's an effective way to do this. One thing that you could do, which I think is also a really interesting way to look at this, but it's a little challenging, like it's a dangerous way to do it, but it does make for a more fully developed, interesting essay, is to talk about how, you know what, yeah, I get that this is negative. Okay, I understand that there are negative aspects of this trend. However, I think that despite the negatives, it is more positive for people, maybe not for society, but for people themselves and individuals. It's a positive thing. So what do I mean? In other words, you could say in one paragraph that, you know what, when people get married later, it affects the institution of marriage, because many people, once they get into their 30s, they decide not to get married. And so you have kind of a crumbling of the institution of marriage, okay? Because once you get into your 30s, you're kind of set in your ways, and you're like, you know what, I don't really need to get married. And so a lot of people choose not to. So you have this sort of crumbling of the institution of marriage. That's a negative element of this. The second negative element of this is that you have a decline in population. Because, as you so aptly mentioned before, that when you start having children at 18, it is possible to have up to 10 children, okay? When you're getting married, though, in your 30s, there's a good likelihood that you will have one, max, maybe 2 or 3 children, okay? So what results is a decline in population. So these are negative aspects of this trend. Okay? Then you could spend your next body paragraph saying that, you know what? Yeah, I get that for society, maybe this is a negative development, but for the people themselves, it's positive because, number one, you enter marriage more conscientious, more consciously. You've been around the block. You've met 2, 3, 5, 30 partners, and you know who you want to be with. Okay? And then you are more financially stable, you are more mature, and so you can undertake the responsibilities that are involved in having and raising children. So you have people who are far more conscious about their decision to get married and have children, and this is good overall. Okay, so these are some suggestions on how you could have more accurately and more appropriately develop this essay. While I liked everything you wrote, because your exam is this Saturday, I want you to think about the questions themselves. Now, your writing is really good. I mean, you've got all the elements of grammar, you've got all the elements of vocabulary, and you even have the structure. Now, in your email to us, you asked us if the memorized parts could be a disadvantage to you. I think no. I think that what you need to focus on is making sure that you really understood the question and that you've absolutely, with all certainty, have answered the question that is being asked of you, okay? And the reason I am so certain about this is because I see this all the time. Believe me, this is probably the most common problem that people face with IELTS. So focus on the question and ask yourself, do I understand the question? What are they really asking me here? Because a lot of times the questions are a little more complex than most people realize. So this is my kind of last minute advice to you. Since your exam is a Saturday, I want to wish you tons and tons of luck. I hope, honestly, Tayla, that you don't need us again. But if you do, we're here to support you and to give you feedback on more essays if that's something you should need in the future. I hope it isn't. I hope that you've reached the end of your IELTS road, okay? So best of luck to you this weekend. Do let us know how you do. I hope you found all the information today helpful. Good luck to you.